me, I'm Vincent, and I'm going to talk to you today about 5 different cases and how they relate to our concept analysis of spiritual distress. Before we get into examples of those cases, we're going to just quickly define each case type. And the first one is the model exemplar case. And we take the criteria for that case from Chin and Kramer. And Chin and Kramer state that it gives us a perfect depiction of the concept at hand. It has all of the description of what we're trying to portray in that concept. And then our contrary case is also from Chin and Kramer, and it's something that's drastically different from the model case. It's kind of from right field. It's something that when you put it up against that model case, you know that it is not the concept we're trying to talk about. And their example is if the model case is red, then the contrary case can be green because they're drastically different. It's not like it's red-orange or red-yellow. It's a completely different color. Our next 2 cases are both borderline cases, but we're going to look at 2 different works and their criteria for that case. The first one is from Chin and Kramer, and Chin and Kramer say that the borderline case is more of a metaphoric use of the concept, and their example is red, and red metaphorically states anger and violence. And then, Walker and Avant are saying that the borderline case criteria is more of, it gives us a depiction of what we could say is the concept, but something is skewed, something is off, something may be missing. And their example is anxiety and fear. And they give the example of a woman walking through the jungle. She's anxious about the possibility of a lion, and it's not until she hears a lion's roar that then it turns into fear. Very similar, but they're not the same exact concept. And then the last 2 cases, the related case and the invented case. The related case, we're also going to look at Chin and Kramer's criteria, and it's actually very similar to Walker and Avant's borderline case in that it gives us that description of what we think is going to be the concept, but something is skewed, something is missing, something is not quite there in that perfect depiction that we see in the model or exemplar case. And then the invented case is a more science fiction, made up example of our concept. And we'll look at an example of that that'll help us to better understand that. So we're going to use a patient and a nurse-patient relationship to portray these cases and the concepts that we're talking about, spiritual distress. And this is our patient. She's in her 30s. She just found out that her pregnancy is not viable, that it is indeed an ectopic pregnancy, and the surgeon has just left her room, letting her know that she will need surgery and that methotrexate won't be an option this time, and that he went over those risks of possibly needing to take out her fallopian tube, etc. And so a little bit of social background to help us out. Her boyfriend left her whenever he found out that she was pregnant. And her family is not happy with her choices, so she's very isolated. She doesn't have that support group that she's looking for right now. And the first case, like I said, is the model case, exemplar case from Chin and Kramer's criteria. And you walk in the room. She's lonely, she's frustrated. She states that God must be punishing her for having sex before marriage. How is she ever going to make this right? So immediately you see distress, and you see it in the spiritual nature. You see her questioning the meaning of life. You see her questioning that connection that she had to the higher power that she believes in. And then the contrary case is the exact opposite. The surgeon did end up needing to take her fallopian tube, and you walk in the room. She's quiet, she's reserved, but she smiles at you, and she states, "I'm completely at peace with the situation. I know God is in control and has a plan for my life." So you don't see that distress. You don't see that disconnect from that higher power. She states that she knows that God's in control. She's smiling at you. It is, when put up against the model case, the exact opposite, or nothing near spiritual distress. And then the borderline cases, we're going to look at both works. First, Chin and Kramer, the metaphoric use. You walk in and she states that she understands Eve's struggle. The serpent's cunningness has made her fall flat on her face. And serpent can be used to depict sin that goes along with spiritual distress. And then Walker and Avant, you know, is more of something's missing. It's not quite the exact picture of the exemplar case or the model case. And you walk in the room, she says, maybe if I believe in God, I wouldn't be in this mess. So she does speak of a spiritual nature, a higher power, but she's not stating distress in that, you know, yesterday she believed in it, and then today, because of this crises, she's questioning it. She's questioning meaning of life. So let's look at the last two. The related and the invented. The related is going to be Chen and Kramer again. And you walk in, she says, I feel so alone. I'm heartbroken that I won't ever get to hold this child. Will you pray with me? You see distress. You see loneliness. You may see some depression starting up. But she's asking for prayer. She's seeking that connection with that higher power. So we don't quite see that spiritual distress. Something is just a little different. She may be you know, exemplifying more of depression. And then the invented case, something that's more science fiction type. You walk in the room, there's two spiritual beings battling it out right there in the room, or a spiritual being lying on the bed next to her in distress. It's showing us that spiritual distress, but not something that'll actually happen. And so with these 5 cases, I hope that you better understand our concept of spiritual distress, and that you can better understand borderline related, contrary, and the model cases as we use them to look at concepts.